You know, this is the time of year when agents are calling their attorneys asking about tax bills. And today we're going to discuss that and see if we can help out the agents. So we've got Harold Hudson here, who is the senior partner with the Hudson Law firm. And Harold, this time of year, I know you get frantic phone calls from people asking about tax bills and things like that. So what's the biggest issue that you're hearing today?
So the biggest issue that we hear from at this time of year from sellers and their agents is that the seller gets a tax bill. And they've already sold the property, so they're wondering, why am I getting this tax bill? It says I still owe this money. We've already had a closing. So what's going on is that in virtually every county in Georgia, the people at the tax office don't change over the name on the tax rolls from the seller to the buyer until the end of the year.
So whose responsibility is it to do that?
So, well, the responsibility is on the tax officials to do that. So what happens is that if you sold a property before the tax bill came out, then what we do at the closing, and every law firm does this, is that the seller gives the buyer a credit so that the buyer can pay the property taxes based on whenever date in the year the property is sold.
Do the tax bills come out the same day for every county, or are they different times?
No, they come out every different day for every county, and last year's tax bill and this year's tax bill probably won't come out on the same date for the same county. It's just generally when the county can get their tax information together, they generally just get it out as soon as they can.
And I assume that the county mails the tax bill to the buyer's address that's in the county records, which may not necessarily be the address of the property. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so what happens again is that the tax bill is going to go to the seller. The buyer is only going to get next year's tax bill because the county tax folks don't change over the tax rolls from the seller to the buyer at the end of the year. And that's why we're getting all these calls, because people have sold their property and they're saying, hey, why am I getting this tax bill? I've sold this property, I have no liability with respect to it.
So you also hear people saying, well, what about my homestead exemption and that kind of tax thing? Is this all part of the same thing?
I mean, they're related in the sense that they're tax issues. But again, what happens is that, and what I tell these sellers and their agents is that, hey, you have no liability for this. You gave the buyer a credit. It's really the onus is on the buyer because the buyer owns the property now. And if they don't get the taxes paid, then they're going to have a tax lien against their property. So that's where we get these phone calls, and that's just the issue. So buyers are going to be responsible for them.
So what happens, for instance, in a cash sale where there's not a mortgage involved? How do you get involved with that?
So here's what really is especially important for buyers in a cash purchase. So again, the seller is going to get the tax bill, okay, when it comes out. The buyer it's really on the buyer to understand that they affirmatively have to reach out to the county and ask what the tax liability is. Now, a lot of sellers, when they get the tax bill, they'll call us up and say, hey, what do I need to do with this tax bill? And we'll say, hey, if you don't mind, go ahead and send it over to the buyer. And a lot of them will just affirmatively do that, and they'll send it over to the buyer. So that'll trigger the buyer to go and pay the taxes. But if the buyer does not, then the buyer is going to have a interest penalty, and they'll eventually get a notice once the tax rolls reflect the buyer, which will probably be next year.
Well, now, if I remember correctly, there are companies out there that will buy tax liens. So do you ever see that sort of thing happening?
Yes, we do see it happen, and it varies between the counties. Some counties are quicker to sell the taxes to a third party. So it happens a lot in Fulton County. They sell them pretty quickly. Some of the other counties don't do them as quick. So it can be an issue. But again, this is a great opportunity for agents to affirmatively reach out to their buyers, cash buyers, and say, hey, don't forget the taxes are coming out now, tax bills are coming due, and if you need help getting the tax bill, you can call your closing attorney, or I can direct you to the county tax commissioner's website.
Well, and it sounds to me like it would also be a good opportunity for the seller's agent to reach out and just to reiterate that, look, you've already paid all the taxes, everything's cool, but it's a reason to reach out.
I think it's a great idea for sellers, for listing agents, and for buyer's agents to reach out to their respective clients and go over these issues with them right now. It's another touch that they have, and you know, it will reduce the anxiety and the stress of their clients, and that's what we're all trying to do with our clients. I'm trying to reduce the stress that my agents feel. I know the agents are trying to reduce the stress that their buyers and sellers have.
Good. Well, it sounds to me like you've been through the ringer before, and just about any question that either a listing agent or a buyer's agent might have, you guys have probably been to that rodeo before. So my final thing is, if an agent, whether it's a seller's agent or a buyer's agent, needs to reach out to you guys or has questions, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So several different ways. Number one, they can call our office, 678-999-6030. We have a very experienced staff. Virtually anybody in the office can answer these questions. They can send us an email. They can send it to harold@hudson.law. They can send me a text, 404-863-5338.
Perfect. So there's a whole bunch of ways to get in touch with the Harold Law Firm. And look, if this has been beneficial for you guys, how about clicking on the button below, liking this video, subscribe to the channel, because we have a lot of videos that are coming out specifically for real estate agents and how they can service their clients using a law firm like Harold's. All righty? We'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.
Thank you.